We are live here at the Arty 84 show that we do make some money off of, just so people out there know, enough to break even. And we're not just doing this for the fuck of us. It's episode
We
221.
do?
Enough to make the $120 to $200 it costs to run for the RSS for the podcast feed and for all the other feeds for the Zoom and stuff like that. So other than that, we're still in the red. But still.
I caught part of what you were saying there. You said enough to break even.
Yeah.
I said we do. And then after that, I heard nothing.
Well, yeah, from the YouTube shit. That's about it. Enough to pay for the RSS feed. That's like $129 a year. And then and then the Zoom is about $100 a year and all that stuff. But we are live.
Yeah, it's all just
just money spent. Yeah. Red Sox are
it's mostly for fun anyway.
Yeah. If you're allowed to have fun, occasionally. You can have a good time once in a while. When it's permitted, of course, because it's not always permitted. Sometimes you just gotta live a life like a prisoner. I like you get Nicolas Cage still behind you with the scary look on his face.
Yeah, I feel like I keep it there. Yeah, I feel like I keep it there for a while. That's from the Vampire's Kiss.
Ah, okay. Of course, we have Adam the Mellow on set tonight, as usual. I get the new background. It looks like I'm looking out a window. It's actually my window with a green screen over it. It's like I had to find a video of something going on, so it looked like there was like a video. Then, of course, when I came home today, every single fucking thing I had to be updated because the Mac OS just updated their system. So that took about an hour and a half to get that going. So I was actually lucky to be able to get this going on, which is fortunate. And then I just turned on the Sox game, which I forgot was on. For some reason, I thought they had today off. I guess they have a 4-game series against the Yankees. Already down 5-0, a grand slam by the Yankees to really get them going.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people had hopes for this series, but you never know. They could turn it around. They could catch fire. They will at some point.
I thought if they could at least split the series against Tampa, we'd be in decent shape because I think that was a good test. And unfortunately, they did not. And, well, what's this? Red Sox just hit a 2-run homer, so now it's 5-2. So maybe it'd be one of those games. I don't know. Who knows? It's the Yankees Sox. They're going to split the series.
What inning is it?
It's third inning. Bottom of the third. And Cole's pitching. So they get their best.
Okay. Oh, plenty of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know how the Sox, I mean, no matter how good or bad the Sox are, and the Yankees, they're always going to split the series. It's always going to be split. It's going to be, where they play 18 games against each other. It'll be, be 9-9, 8-10. You know what I mean? So it's inevitable.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it. No, I don't think anybody's expecting the Red Sox to win the World Series this year, but to at least be competitive, especially with the payroll they have, they should at least be in a competitive mix.
Well, I would say they're competitive till about the 7th inning of every game. Every game they play is pretty much winnable till about the 7th inning. And then their bullpen blows. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's not their offense. It's not their lack of offense. Yes, their bats go cold at times, but for the most part, it's not that's hurting the game. It's not even the starting pitching. We thought starting pitching was going to be a problem. It's not even the starting pitching. Starting pitching is actually not bad. In fact, if you look at their ERA, it's in the middle of all the teams in the league. It's just their bullpen is fucking terrible. Oh God.
Yeah, no, it is. I saw they designated Hunter Robles for assignment. That was a long time coming.
God, I think he had one too many appearances, to be honest with you. Like when he came in, it was basically like liability.
Well, he was always a liability. Well, even when they got him, I think from Cleveland, maybe he was known for giving up the long ball.
Right.
That was his thing, giving up the long ball. And what happened? He always gave up the long ball. So nothing. He didn't change shit.
Well, especially the last 2 games he was in, they were winning too. That's the killer. I mean, you're in a game, or they were one game they were winning, one game they were tied, and then you put them in there, and that's the variable. Right? Yeah. That's what pretty much screws it all up. Oh God! Yesterday I got taco. I was eating jalapenos, and I had it on my finger, and I rubbed my eye.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh.
Still, I mean, it still stings. It's been like 24 hours now, and like it can still It's like I've been peppered. It's pepper spray. I got hit with pepper spray.
How long did you flush it out for? You got to flush that eye out with water, like a constant stream for a while.
I probably should have. I didn't flush it at all. I just let it linger.
Oh God, dude! Why would you do that? You hate yourself.
Then I went to the bathroom and I caused more insult to injury. So, note to self: if you're cutting jalapenos or you get a jalapeno, even if you just don't even get a seed, if you just get the juice on you a little bit, it is as potent as like a low-level pepper spray. It could cause some damage. So
okay, I'm an expert in this situation because I put as you know, I put sriracha sauce on everything. Even I put it on my eggs, I put it on my food, I put it on everything. And I put it in the morning on my eggs, usually before I put my contacts in. Now, granted, sriracha sauce isn't as hot as habanero sauce, but the same rules apply. You know, so it's like if there's something if it's on my fingers and I got to put my contacts in, whoopsie, you know what I mean? It burns like a motherfucker, right? So same rules apply. Jump right the fuck in the shower and just let the water just pound the shit out of your eye for like 5 minutes. And you're right as rain. It's still gonna sting, but it pushes the process along. You know,
it does. It's like it's like I don't know if your chemistry class had it when you were in school. You had these flush stations. You ever see those where there was like a shower where you pulled the thing down and then they had these things that look like your eyes go on them. And if like there was ever a chemical or something, you hit the button and it's supposed to flush your eyes out, but it's just potent.
Never used it. I always wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever. I think by the time we were in high school, they weren't using chemicals or anything of that nature to basically, let us to do that, I guess you could say. I don't think we're dealing with anything that would cause us to flush our eyes out. But,
No. I feel like it's up for debate if that thing actually worked, too.
Right. Yeah. It was the last time it was ever put off. Who knows? It could have been, the thing probably never, the plumbing probably was shut off on. I do remember.
Or if it does work, you're gonna get doused with like black water from all the shit sitting in the pipes.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, you ever see like a fire hydrant, like when they set it off after a while, like it's all rust for the first like 5 minutes of all the shitty pipe water that comes out of it. It's like, yeah, all right.
Oh, I know, because I broke a sprinkler head at my old job, and that's exactly what happened.
Oh, how the fuck did you do that?
The forklift, I backed into it with the fork truck. And I knocked it out of the ceiling and just black. And then the building had to get evacuated.
I didn't know you had a forklift license.
Yeah.
You do?
I did. I don't know if it's probably not valid anymore, but yeah, I was certified. I was certified in hazmat training, hazardous materials, handling of that, and forklifts.
So you were certified to drive a forklift, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, hitting the sprinkler head's a bitch. That almost happened to me working at the mall. God, I used to remember. I was like at the sneaker store. Like we had the sneaker store piled high on the top of the shelf, and we weren't supposed to go past the sprinkler head. That was basically a fire violation. And one time we had some stuff up there on the top of the office, and it come down, and it hit the pipe, and it was like leaning, and like it was like slowly removing stuff, so like it wouldn't slip in. Like the head of how like the sprinkler head has a little star on it. Like there was something riding right on the pipe right there. And like if we just moved it just enough, there was enough weight to pop. Because all a sprinkler head is, if you guys don't know, they're there. It's a glass bulb that's there. And that glass bulb is basically holding the water back. And that glass bulb has different colors. And depending on the color is the heat rating for the sprinkler head. So like, for example, like a standard house, it would have to get up to like, I don't know, like a couple 100 degrees for that glass, or like a standard business, because most houses don't have sprinklers, but if they did, it would basically, I think it's like 120 to 200 degree breaking point. So when that glass it's meant to melt at like say 200 degrees, and when it melts, it breaks and it pops the valve down. So like unless you put like intense heat, like you ever see like when people put the lighter to the sprinkler heads, like that can't really happen. It's not enough heat for that to happen.
No, it can't. No.
But like that's great. And then like the more industrial you get, like if you work in an industrial like warehouse or something like that, the heat rating is a lot higher because obviously there's a lot more that could go on before sprinkler head pops. But if you hit a sprinkler head, like I said, it's only glass holding that thing. So if you hit it hard enough, you'll break the glass. So when you go next time you see a sprinkler head, go up there and take a look at a sprinkler head.
Yeah, I will say mine wasn't exactly a clean break either. It broke and then it started shooting up into the rafters and almost caused an electrical fire. No product was damaged, so but the building was evacuated. I was the only one drenched, and then like nobody thought I was going to come back. I went home and showered. It was like within my first year too, when I first started my job when I was like 19.
Jesus,
it's horrible.
God, yeah, because like when the sprinkler head goes off, it sets the alarm off. So obviously the fire department has to come, and they have to break the chain on the valve to shut the valve off. And then you get the point of all the water damage you cause from it. Not to mention you got to get a sprinkler specialist in there to fix it, and you can't open the building and have people in there unless you get the sprinkler head and the fire alarm up, unless you have a firefighter detail out there for the time being.
Well, after that happened, they replaced them with the retractable ones, the ones that are up in the wall, and then will come down. That's
probably smart for a situation in which
a warehouse.
Yeah, that would make the most sense in the first part of it. It seems a little counterproductive to have those things as milly-nilly just hanging out there while a forklift could easily take them down. Yeah, and there's a lot of water that comes out of there. There's hundreds of gallons of water that shoots out of that sprinkler head immediately after it's broken. I mean, it's pretty pressurized, pretty good. It's funny
it's great.
If you break a dry head, like, so basically a dry head is a sprinkler system that has air in it instead of water. And basically at the head, there's these little ping pong balls that stick up there, and they're basically they're in their area. So like right behind the glass. So when the glass breaks, these ping pong balls, they're like really tiny. They're like the size of like M&Ms, come shooting out first. Then you hear the air, and then the water comes out. And the reason is that is like, if you ever need a sprinkler system that's outside, so it doesn't freeze and break the pipes, so you have air inside there instead. So there's like a little bit of delay before the water comes out. But those little ping pongs are pretty funny. All of a sudden they just go bloop, 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 and then you go and just shoots the water everywhere. It's pretty fascinating. If you haven't seen it, Adam, of course, has seen it firsthand. Google sprinkler heads going off online, and it's pretty some dramatic stuff. We used to have to do this test when I was working for the mechanical engineer firm. We used to do pressure tests with hydrants. So we would go out to a town and, like, say you were building a new building and you had to test what this pressure system was for the sprinkler. And this would be to determine if your building that you were building would need a extra pump in the building, or was the city pressure significant enough to be able to, do the whole building without any pumps, right? So you go out and basically you put this thing that looks like a gauge with a big horn at the end of the sprinkler, like you would the firefighters would hook up the hose, and you attach that to there. And then you go down to like the next sprinkler, next hydrant rather, and you put a gauge on it where the firefighter would put the hose. And then you open the system up where the little horn is, and water just shoots out like fucking crazy. And it goes, it makes this noise, like, so you could hear from the next hydrant when it's on. And then you look at the gauge, and then the gauge will tell you what the pressure is at the particular moment as that water's shooting through the system. And that will give you a number that you use to engineer the system for the sprinkler system for the building, depending on how big it is. So you would do that, and it would be hundreds of gallons of water just flooding the street. And it would be like a stream of water just like shooting like fucking crazy. It was fucking nuts. And of course, you had to get the fire department.
It really is. It really is amazing when you think about it. It's like we live in a country where it's like, as fucked up as we are, though, but it's nice that we can live in a country where we have just gallons of water that can just shoot out of everywhere. Well, meanwhile, you have horrible countries that are like in turmoil and needing clean water. And we're just like, it just shoots all over the fucking place.
And they have no water whatsoever. Like, well, look what's going on in Vegas right now in Lake Mead. They're losing 8 inches a week in the reservoir.
Well, you and me talked about this. I remember I was saying, like, I was reading how, Vegas in 10 years is going to have a real problem that they don't know how to solve, because the water issue there is very real. And it's like, oh, let's build a fucking new football. Let's build a new new stadiums. Let's just build new stadiums, that which take obviously a lot of water. It's like, what are they going to do? It's
definitely a city that is never meant to be there. And even LA has the problem. If the LA River that's supplying some of the water coming down from the I believe it's the Colorado River, goes in, somehow gets into the reservoirs, and then someone gets to the California. And that's basically how LA gets their water, because LA doesn't have any natural water sources around it, from what I understand. So like they have to like aqueduct their water in. And that's another city that's never meant to be a city there. Like, So what's gonna happen with like so Lake Mead's dropping so much? I was watching these videos online of like there was a boat that was like anchored there, and then like the guy came back like a week and a half later, and the boat was beached. And they just recently found a body that was inside a 50 gallon drum, like a metal drum that the mob killed someone years ago and put him in the drum and took him over to the and then sunk it. And like never ever thought this thing would ever pop up because it was sunk so deep. Yeah. And the barrel was in there in perfect condition. They opened the barrel and they found a remains of a body in there. And they pretty sure it was a mob hit. And they're finding like boats, and they're finding like stuff that just like over the years, like no one ever thought would ever come back. And there it is. It's like the only other option, like if you live on the coast, you can do like desalteration plants where they take the salt water.
Desalinization.
Desalinization, yeah. But like if you live in Vegas, the nearest ocean's 400, 300 miles away.
What I don't understand is with desalinization is like they say like, oh, well, the process is just really expensive. And my argument is, well, why didn't you start looking into this technology decades ago so that way it would be cheaper now? We're surrounded by fucking water like that we can't use. Like you would think a long time ago we would have, because you know how it is. Like the more you put into a technology from the get-go, the cheaper it eventually becomes. Right. So they're like, oh, it's just really fucking expensive. Yeah, it is, because you idiots decided not long ago to not get invested in this. Like you should have. It's ridiculous. It boggles my mind how we're surrounded by we live on a fucking water planet. It's 85-90% water, and you idiots can't figure out, oh, you know what? We should probably get to work on that.
Yeah, someone said like 90% of the water on the planet's undrinkable. Like
yes, yeah.
And the desalterizing of the water is it's such an expense, is because you have to take your water that's salted and then you have to heat it up to a boil, and then you take the boiled steam because the salt will separate from the water, and then it will go elsewhere, and then the steam will condense. It's basically like distilling alcohol. Like when you like take the distill, you're taking the water out of the alcohol to make booze. But like it takes so much energy to warm the water up, and then you have to bring it down, and then you have to filter the water, and then you have to store the water, and then you have to use it. So it's like it's not as simple as just like
it's a process,
right? So it's like, ugh.
The thing is, it's a process, but who knows? If we got the get-go on this early, then maybe it would just be even easier and faster. We would come up with other ways to do it. It's just like nobody thought about. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's so stupid. I feel like let's say we were to colonize a planet. It's like, oh, what should we do first? Well, we kind of live off water. Most of our bodies are made of water. Maybe we should figure out how to make this drinkable.
Right. And another option would be,
it's crazy.
There's a lot of snow, like in the up in the north, right? Like in northern Canada and the Arctic Circle, even down like in the Antarctic, tons of snow. Snow is mostly drinkable, right? As long as it's fresh snow, like it's falling from the sky, it's not salted in there, right? If there's a way, and all that snow does is melt and then goes into the ocean, right? So you get this perfectly good fresh water souping its way into the ocean when it melts. If there was a way you could mine this, and it sounds fucking crazy, but for a way to get the snow and have like a pipeline, so you melt, so you like say you're up in like northern Canada where there's no one there, right? You have this facility that when you they plow the streets and stuff, and then they get rid of snow for stuff. They go into the facility and they gather snow and they melt the snow down the water. The water goes down a pipeline to like 400 or 500 miles, wherever it has to go, down to southern Canada, and then it gets filtered and stored, and then it gets pumped into the reservoir lines all the way around, and that'd be fucking crazy. It's like wasting snow, because they say if you the movie Alive, right? When they needed water, what they were doing was they were gathering snow and they were melting it using a reflector to drink it, which is perfectly fine. It was perfectly good water. It's snow. It's basically the main thing.
Yeah. So
why couldn't you do that on a larger scale? It would probably take a lot less energy to do that than it would to take the salt out of the water, but. Who knows? I guess it's not a problem yet, so they just don't deal with it. It's like everything else, they're not going to worry about it until, they can come up with these harebrained ideas, if they do for energy, like with solar and wind, which is great in a micro aspect. Like if you had a solar panels in your house, or you had you worked on a farm and you had a windmill on your farm, that's great for that one particular location, right? You can actually utilize that energy and kind of ease yourself off the grid. But on a large, like a macro scale, that doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, because you need a way to store it. You know, it's not on demand. So it's like they don't think like that. Like melting snow and drinking it for the house works great, but to do that on a macro scale, how the hell would you do that? You know,
Yeah.
Crazy.
No, I mean, even throughout history, there are these pockets of like human engineering that do like amazing things.
Yeah.
And then it's like they just sort of like, oh, let's just move on to something else and let's just forget about that. And things that really happen. Like, for instance, okay, so like take the Apollo 14. The Apollo 14 crew, they deployed these panels, these solar panels on the moon. Yeah. And what they do is that's what tells us how far the moon gets from us on a yearly basis, which is like a couple centimeters a year, right? And every year, what they do is they shoot these lasers at the panels. They're still there.
Okay.
And they shoot these lasers at the panels and it bounces the signal back.
Okay.
Right? Now, like that was in the fucking 70s. Like I feel like that kind of stuff like is just sort of now being implemented. Maybe in the 90s, I feel like it started to get implemented, but it's like this stuff that was used. And then it's like, oh, let's forget about it. It's like, even look at the pyramids. Oh, no one knows how they were built. It's like, this is amnesia. This is amnesia streaks to how things happened. And then no one wants to fucking talk about it. Or they just get lost.
They're too busy funding other shit. That doesn't matter. Like if you ran the government like you ran a state government where you had to balance your budget every year, you wouldn't have all this excess spending. You would be able to invest in certain things that matter. And even at the state level, it sucks. Even at the city level, their budgeting is fucked. You know what I mean? So it's like
fuck the species.
It doesn't matter because people who live in the now don't give a fuck about the future. It's period. It's in there. You could say, oh, you know, all these super lefties who are all about like, you know, the green energy, the Brit. You're not going to do anything. There's nothing the humans can do to stop it. They can slow it down, but it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It happens every millions of years. We go through an ice age, then we go through a heat up. We go through an ice age, we go through a heat up. It's the way the planet works. It heals itself. Look at a house that's been abandoned for a year. Nature regains it, right? There's nothing that anyone did to it. Nature just found a way to regain and took over. So you could slow it down, but you're not.
Yeah, like we were saying, like nature.
Stop it.
Yeah. Nature doesn't give a fuck. Like we said before, nature doesn't give a fuck about
They don't give a fuck.
Like, it's just going to do its thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And yes, the weather patterns and maybe getting a little extreme. Weather's getting a little bit different, but that's how it was. If you go into a time machine and went a million years back, it's going to be the same exact thing. And that's before we had any things going into the atmosphere. And yes, there's things that accelerated slightly, but on a large scale, I mean, you're telling me all the shit they were putting up in the atmosphere in the 1800s during the Industrial Revolution compared to what we're using now with the EPA and the restrictions that majority of the countries in this world follow. Like, we're not doing any more damage. We're doing way less damage than they were doing 250 years ago.
Debatable due to the amount of population. And some countries don't give a fuck. Granted, America, yes, we've been doing all these implementing all this shit, but other countries, India, China, they don't give a fuck.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
but like on a big scale though, like 25% of the countries, right, are rolling dirty, say, right? So say 25% of the world's rolling dirty, right? So you get 25% of the factories and stuff on falling and everything, which is still a lot, but then it's better than 100% that was 200 years ago. At least I don't know.
True. I mean, you have to. I don't have the numbers. You have to take into account population increase and the amount of technology.
And I honestly, God, I don't think anyone has the numbers. I don't think anyone could affirmatively say one way or another that one thing is doing more damage or good to the other. You know what I mean? I don't think that is even a possibility to even figure that out because you can't figure it out. Everyone's an.
I mean, is it obvious? It's obvious we're doing damage to the planet. The amount of that damage is debatable, but it's obvious, you know, when you have a population increase and the population is going up in the world, it's more bad things that happen. I remember someone once said that the world, what was it? There was the Georgia Guidestones. You ever heard of the Georgia Guidestones?
And it was like the statues that are look like Stonehenge.
No, it's kinda, yeah, and it's like this monolith, and no one knows who funded it and who pays to have it there. Right. And it's like these rules to sustain humanity.
Yeah.
Right. And one of them, hold on, I'm gonna Google it right now. If this connection bogs, it's gonna suck. Hold on.
No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's in the middle. I think it's in Athens, Georgia. I may be wrong, but yes, it's basically like Stonehenge. No one knows where it came from. No one knows who built it. No one knew who funded it, and it has like weird inscriptions in them or something like that, like these weird notes to like. It's in one of those weird.
It's under surveillance too. Like I got a picture of it right here. Okay, one of them is you maintain humanity under. This is the one a lot of people have a problem with. Under all the rules. One of them is maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature.
Okay.
Which, that's it. Like, that's a huge population cutoff right there. But you know what? It might be true. I mean, we overfish, we overhunt, we can't feed the fucking planet. We just make synthetic shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, another problem. Yeah, but with that said, though, the suicide seeds though have a problem too. You know about the suicide seeds, right? So basically,
sorry, I couldn't hear you there. But
no, so do you know about the suicide seeds? Like a plant that kills itself?
Suicide seeds. No.
So basically, a long time ago, there was put into law during the world that you can't own a patent, you can't own a seed, you can't own a species of food, you can't own, say, corn, you can't own beans. But if you manipulate the seed, you are able to claim the patent on the seed. Okay, so you own the seed and you can't reuse it. So basically, Monsanto's, the chemical company, basically took seeds to all our major crops like corn, wheat, beans, etc., and they manipulated the seed so that it's their own, and then they patented it. Oh, there you are. So the seeds, they're suicide seeds. So Monsanto's made these seeds. So like when you plant them and you grow corn, and usually of a real piece of corn, when the corn dies, their seeds grow and make more corn. You can continue making more of this vegetable using the seeds from the vegetable. Monsanto has cloned it, so the seed that actually grows the corn will not ever produce anymore. It kills it, so it's done. And then they provide the seeds to 75% of the farms in the country. So basically, they own the patents to these suicide seeds. So every year you have to buy more seeds from Monsanto's. And this is a huge problem that's been going on. So like basically, if you grow tomatoes in your garden, you can take the seeds out of those tomatoes, you can put them in the ground, and next year you can grow more tomatoes. If you're growing tomatoes on a large scale farm and you take those seeds, you can't grow anything. That's why watermelons have white seeds now instead of blacks, because they can't reproduce anymore. So it's basically an end of the situation. So basically, that doesn't help the situation when companies start owning patents to, engineered seeds. That's a huge problem, because in other words, you could just grow your own crops in your backyard using whatever you bought from Stop and Shop, but then the farmers wouldn't have the business anymore if you're growing your own crops, and then the farms can't buy it from Monsanto. So it's a fucking vicious circle.
So you're basically telling me the farming industry is becoming like the pharmaceutical industry.
The majority of it, yes. Like I would say about 75% of it. So if you go to an organic farm of some guy down the street that's growing stuff, chances are he doesn't have these manipulated seeds. You could probably ask the farmer at the farm stand that owns the farm and be like, hey, listen, are you buying your seeds from Monsanto's or any company of that nature? And if they say no, we've been using the same seeds for generation after generation from crops, then you have a really specific organic farm. Now, if you go to the farm and he goes, no, we buy these seeds, you're not going to an organic farmer. You're going to a guy that has a small farm. That's basically what it is. So it's a big difference between a small neighborhood farm and an organic farm, because it depends on the seeds they use. If they could take a crop, they could take a tomato and bury it in the ground, and the next year grow more tomatoes with that tomato, you have an organic farmer. If you take that tomato and you bury it in the ground and it's done, then you have a manipulated seed that has a specific patent to it that cannot reproduce. It's a suicide seed, basically. That's what they call them.
Interesting.
And that's a huge problem why the food source of this planet's like that. Is because the average Joe Blow can't just go and like for example, if you had a good sized family, right? And you were like, all right, kids, save the seeds to your apples and your oranges and stuff. And what we'll do is we'll replant them in the garden, and maybe we'll grow an orange tree, right? Like nature would have it. And then next year we'll have a plentiful amount of oranges from our orange tree that we grew from one orange that we buried in the ground. You do that now from like an orange you buy from like Stop and Shop or like, Giant, Star Market or something of that nature. You can't grow anything with those seeds. Try it. Go grab an orange, put it in your backyard, see if you grow a tree. You can't do it. If you buy them from, unless it says organic on it, and you can't even trust that because you don't know where they're organically getting their seeds from. You're basically it's it. Now, like it's funny because like you ever go in the backyard, all of a sudden you have a tree growing in the middle of your backyard. It was because of seed fell from a maple tree and how it somehow got into the ground and enough water and sun and the combination was just right for nature to
or a fucking bird dropped it.
Or a bird dropped it, right? So like that's how nature's supposed to go. It's funny that you don't see random corn stalks growing in people's backyards or random watermelon groves or random pumpkin patches growing in people's yards because it just doesn't.
Well, it does depend where you are in the climate, and that is a factor.
But I'm talking about like stuff that's like if you go to an apple orchard in New England, chances are those are organic apples, right? You're not going to have those problems. No. If you're buying your apples from Stop and Shop from somewhere in Chile or somewhere down in Washington State, those are genetically engineered apples. You cannot grow those seeds. Try it, put them in your backyard, try to grow it. You're not going to grow shit. Those seeds have no. It's basically like a woman with an egg that's not fertilized. And then she has a period and it goes away, and then the seed just dies. That's basically what happens. That's basically, and there's a documentary I watched on it about how Monsanto's pretty much owns 75% of all the farms, and they pretty much hold the farms by their balls. Like a farmer doesn't really, a large scale farmer doesn't really make much money because of the amount of money it takes to it's like also the chicken coops, right? A large scale chicken raiser doesn't make much money, and they actually get fined like by Purdue. Like there's like 5 major companies that produce meat in this company, and they all like lease all these smaller farms. Like if me and you want to have a chicken farm, like Purdue would come to us and be like, all right, we'll pay you guys to produce the chickens, but there's such strict guidelines that like most farmers can't afford. You're actually running in the red most of the time. If you're barely breaking even.
Damn.
I
knew it was bad.
It's a huge problem in this country when it comes to this because we let the government get involved with our production of food. And you say, no, Monsanto's not owned by the government, but they have lobbyists in the government. They're a huge company. They were dumping chemicals in Everett for fucking 100 years, and no one said anything. They polluted the Boston Harbor. No one said anything. But that's the biggest problem with the population, because I think a world can support more people and more if things were in a natural thing, right? So if you just let things naturally evolve, if you let farms naturally grow, if you let crops naturally grow, if you let the whole system naturally grow, I think the earth will have, or any nature in that matter, will have a way to kind of balance it up, right? So it's like, all right, because like you can only produce a kid so many times, you can only do it so often, right? So you can't like, it's not like it's like you popping out a kid every week, right? It takes 9 months and then a couple shots. It maybe takes an average a year and a half to get another kid. And like, how often can you do that? You win those small, so it's like not everyone's doing it. I think nature's a lot more powerful than people give it credit for sometimes. I think it has an ability to feel like, just drive through. Watch when we go to Cooperstown in a couple of weeks. We're going to be driving through fast.
Oh, corn.
Right?
Yeah.
That like, I always say to myself, I'm like, well, there's really not a need for, like, there's plenty of land. Like if like for at least a little while, if the population starts to overgrow, there's no need for, a few million people to be living in one city like New York, where you could just spread it out and everyone would have like an acre of land, right? You could spread out the whole entire world and everyone just have their own piece of land. People don't want to live that way. They want to be in urban areas. They want to be on top of each other. They want to be in high densely populated areas. And I think,
no, I was listening to this interview that do you know who Michio Kaku is?
Mm-hmm.
He's a physicist.
Oh yeah, very smart man.
He was. I was listening to him talk about space for a while, then I was listening to him talk about humanity. He was talking about how, like, he thinks we're done evolving, not on a neurological level, but how we're done evolving on like a physical level, like pretty much like internally, like what you see is what you get. Because, and this was interesting because he's right. There's nothing to challenge us.
Right.
Like we're kind of top of the food chain. There's no reason for us to evolve because there's nothing we're combating.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm like, yeah, that's kind of sad. Like,
yeah, we don't have to wait for dinosaurs coming to get us. We don't have to evolve our bodies to protect ourselves from any elements. It's like,
yeah, it's right.
And we're smart enough to be able to figure out that we just have to put more layers on if we're cold and take layers off if we're hot. And we have ways to refrigerate ourselves or cool ourselves down if air conditioned. If it's too hot outside, and we have ways to heat ourselves. You're right. There's no the molecular structures of a human being no longer need to grow. It's hit its ceiling. And now the only weird thing would happen is, for example, some reason water goes away, and then the humans have to figure out how to survive off of no water.
That might be a death sentence. That might be our end time, like the dinosaurs, you know.
Yeah, or the temperature rises, 20, 30 degrees higher, or drops 20 to 30 degrees lower. And our bodies have to, over time will evolve by growing more hair or growing thicker, or maybe shedding layers of skin or something, or shedding something to evolve us to be able to adapt in a more manageable way. But well, I think until something extreme happens, I think this is it for the humans. So, next thing is extinction. I think probably.
I think that would be really hard to extinct us.
It would be very hard.
Very hard. I think something's going to happen that could drastically drop our numbers. That's not a question. But extinction. Ooh. I mean, the thing is though, I'll always say it's always a possibility, because this planet is like, it's a tomb. Like, there's no way off it. So it's like, if something happens to this planet itself, this small little orb,
right?
Fucked. You know what I mean?
Like, unless like an asteroid hits us or something. But I think even if we have something heading towards Earth that is catastrophic enough to wipe out a majority of the population, I think there would be a system put in place, or somehow that certain humans would survive. Like, you'd have enough people survive in order to reproduce and repopulate at some point in time, whether it's putting them out into space to get them off the planet altogether, or it's putting them into a bunker somewhere with a self-contained area where they can survive off in an artificial environment, or it's by chance we're just in a location that survived and then get affected by it. Like maybe an asteroid hits the water, a tidal wave hits and takes out most of the planet's landforms, but humans still around. Then we'll have to evolve. Okay, maybe the meat source is gone, right? So we have to survive on like grass and some wild weeds like that. Well, their bodies will over time will be adapted to that, because they organically they just try to survive. I think it's more or less Mother Nature, and we're all, you can believe in your religions you want and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it breaks down to it's an evolution thing, and it's semi-proven at this point that we evolved from species. And you can just look at species of animals. They evolved in order to adapt them. Like polar bears are white, so they could blend in, so they could easily eat their prey, right? And what's the difference between a black bear and a polar bear? Basically, the color of their fur, right? And black bears and brown bears need to blend into the woods and the jungles in which they live. Well, I guess the woods, not jungles, but woods and areas and mountains and stuff, where the polar bears had to adapt to their white, snowy, icy environments. It's like, they weren't always like that. There was probably just one bear, and then maybe it was a black bear, and he just wandered off into Antarctica, and then over time they adapted. Or maybe they were polar bears, and then they came in. You know what I mean? So how the fuck do we know? We're just two fucking guys pushing cat all day.
We're still a type 0 civilization. We really are. We're not even a type 1 civilization.
What's the difference?
According to the what is it?
What's that? Well, how's that level work?
It's called like I'm going to pronounce it wrong. It's called like the Kardashev scale. I'm pronouncing it. I'm fucking it up. But there's like type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4 civilizations. We're a type Z. We're still not even a 1.
Okay.
In terms of what we can do, it's like. Let me see if I can. It's like.
Is it going to something like how an average person only uses like 10% of the brain or something like that, or?
No, it has to do with how far we've come as a society and what you should be capable of. Like, okay, so like a type 1 civilization, been able to harness all the energy that is available from a star, gathering and storing it to meet the energy demands of a growing population. We haven't done that yet. We're moving towards that, but we haven't done it. You know, we're still like a type 2 civilization can harness the power of their entire star. Several methods, the most popular, which is a hypothetical or Dyson sphere. I've heard of that. Which is like putting something around the star to take the energy from it to disperse it That's some hardcore shit.
Yeah, it's some pretty crazy physics shit going
on. Type 3, we're a species that becomes galactic, traverses with knowledge of everything that has to do with energy, resulting in them from becoming a master race.
Okay.
That's a type 3. But like a type 0, which is what we are, the human race is not even, actually, we're not even on scale yet. Sorry. Since we will sustain our energy needs from dead plants and animals. Here on Earth, we are a lowly type 0 civilization, and we have a long way to go before becoming from a type 1. Kaku tends to believe that all things taken into consideration, we will reach type 1 in about 100 years. But what does each of these categories actually,
And who came up with this idea? Like, who came up with this system?
I'm thinking it's probably who this name is. I have no idea who this person is.
Because it seems very like...
It makes sense.
It does, but like what do you have to compare it to though? You know what I mean? Like it's not like you, unless he's been in a time machine or he's been in a spaceship and went to other civilizations to compare it to. And like, what's the aliens gonna think when they come here? They're gonna think we're a type 0 civilization, or they're gonna treat. Imagine if aliens come down and treat us like we're ants, like the way we treat ants, like we just step on them.
They do.
Yeah, like, or maybe the aliens.
It's that forever.
Yeah, or maybe the aliens are stupid, and maybe we're smarter than the aliens, and they just happen to want. Maybe they were put in a space capsule. They're like Jar Jar Binks, right? And they just got like shot off into space, and they just landed here. And their civilization is so not advanced, and like to us, they're like, "Oh, this is you." Oh, this is great. Who knows? I hope in my lifetime I run into an alien.
I love how it's funny because we're talking about this, which I love, and then soon we're gonna have to go to football. There's right. Like no bridge.
No, we're getting deep.
We're getting deep, and then we're gonna go to football.
we had a guest on we were gonna talk baseball with and last minute, so it was gonna be more of a sports-oriented show. But then somehow we went down the rabbit hole of basic.
I go down the rabbit hole on this for dude. I could talk about this for hours. Yeah. Funny because I'm actually meeting somebody in a few weeks who is planning to show me something of a extraterrestrial nature who really? Has retired military credentials. I can't say much other than that, but I hope what he shows me isn't going to be his penis.
He's like, you want to see something illegal?
That's all I can.
Eyes on my hog. And you're like, whoa, okay.
But he went to Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. He's a retired Air Force person.
How'd you come across him? Like,
online. Reddit.
You meet him on Craigslist?
I actually want to ask him. He wouldn't talk. He wouldn't come on.
Yeah.
I asked him.
Yeah.
Then I asked him why, because I am involved in a lot of stuff like that, and I look around and I talk to a lot of people, and I think 95% of the UFO community is actually bullshit.
Yeah.
I think there's a 5 to 10% group of people that I think are worth like at least exploring, and anybody with credentials kind of, if you have at least some sort of military, it's worth listening to.
I agree, because I think that, yes, I think there's some strange shit out there. I think, yes, the majority of it is made up. And I think the government allows that notion of the things possibly to be made up, let it go, because it makes them seem more legit when they're working on stuff that's high tech and secret. So like if you have this community that has this crazy theory of all this crazy shit that's going on, and it seems so far-fetched that like when something legit is crazy going on, like people overlook it thinking, all right, you're just talking crazy again, because you're just saying like the boy who cried wolf, right? Oh yeah, I've seen this flying saucer, but the government's working on stuff. And I tend to think, now this may be a little bit of a stretch of a theory, but I do think that there's some kind of interglobal group of
a cabal. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about a cabal.
Yeah. Like there's like, and not everyone in the government even knows about it, but there's people put in place from each major nation that's involved, and mostly scientists and military people that are involved in this working on technology to be enhanced, I guess you will.
I'm gonna interrupt you right now by telling you, yeah, you're right.
Right. And the reason I think this is because like there hasn't been like any major like attacks or wars nations against each other because everyone knows the same secrets and knows so like you have these facade wars, right? So we have these like ground military wars like what's going on in Ukraine and Russia right now, right? And we're not getting involved because there's some like then you get the NATO involved. There's a lot of like weird areas, but like there's a lot of wars which could escalate and maybe in the past would have escalated to larger scale wars like World War I and World War II, but in modern times has not, because there's so much connections with the nations and there's so much stuff that's known and so many behind closed doors stuff that it's more important than what's going on now, what they're working on for the future, I think. And it's like, it would only make sense to get the world involved into figuring out how to stop alien invasions.
Well, no, I think that, and what terrifies me is I feel like, you know who Werner von Braun is. You know, he's the guy.
Right.
We got him from Operation Paperclip, which was he was basically the NASA program that we got from the Germans after World War II.
Right.
And he warned of basically saying that eventually weapons in space will be a push when they're going to blame aliens. There'll be an attack and they'll say it was aliens when it really wasn't aliens.
Okay.
It's just more of an excuse to try to get weapons in space because we need to defend the planet. And the world will come together and it will kind of try to reunite things. And that makes sense. I truly believe if there is a one world government trying to pull everything together to control everything, they don't want war. They want everybody to be happy and think that they're in control when they're not. Right. So that's why I feel like when COVID happened, they were probably bullshit because COVID was just a bunch of idiots in a fucking lab fucked up. Yeah. So they're like, fuck, I feel like that probably threw a wrench into some shit. They probably want everybody to just kind of, it's a rug pull from under people. It's not going to be so obvious. You know what I mean? But when it comes to technology and advances and possibly a threat from out there, look at it this way. You have all these videos now that are declassified from the US government, whether it's us or not, we know, or another country, God forbid, because it's terrifying what we're seeing. We're seeing these things move at speeds of 7,000 miles an hour, above water, above ground, moving at speeds left, right, up and down.
Right, yeah.
Let's face it. If this exists, nobody can be inside that because no material exists that can actually hold that together at that speed without breaking apart. Right. So it's got to be.
Yeah, like a human would dissolve. They can't take G's of that nature.
So that means it's either a drone or it's something of, it has to be some kind of material that we don't know about because it's not breaking apart.
Right.
Right. Two, if the possibility that, let's say it is from something outside as well, that means it's something outside of, stuff is infiltrating our airspace and nobody gives a fuck, which I find terrible. There was a Senate meeting about this last month and no one cared. No one gave a fuck, but I think it's actually important because it could lead to that ultimate question, are we alone? And I think people are actually more afraid of that. So they just kind of don't, or they kind of like, that's cool, but they kind of just don't want to know, it's just kind of more terrifying than anything else. It's just,
and you're right. You're right. Most people don't give a fuck because they're too concerned about their own stuff. There's a lot of selfish people in this fucking world. They only care about themselves. They don't care about the now. But at the same time, there's that small percentage. It's more of the curious people like you and I who would like to know what's going on there. Like, wouldn't necessarily affect our lives in any way. It would just give us a little bit of knowledge and a little more insight of what, and maybe a little more confidence in the government, knowing that they're working on stuff like this that we knew about.
I'm going to leave you with this before we go to football. Let me ask you this. All these videos we've seen from the U.S. government that are declassified, that are legit videos. If we were in a court of law and you were to put a verdict down on if something is extraterrestrial or not, you would have a conviction. You have video.
Right.
Like if we were in a court of law, you would be found guilty because we have proof. Video is fucking proof. Right. You know what I mean? And nobody notices, like, oh, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Where's the proof that there's aliens? Look at these fucking videos. Right. Or interdimensional. I don't fucking know. It's something. That's all I know. If it's
not alien, what is it? Is it something you're working on? Is it an experiment? Like,
is it interdimensional?
What? And like we were picking shit up 50 years ago when all you had was a 35 millimeter camera, right? Now everyone has a phone. The phone is literally in your hand. You have a camera in a video device that is capable of, taking really good pictures. Now at night, now these cameras have these night abilities to take pictures, right? And video and stuff. So you're going to see, I think in the next like decade or so, you're going to even get a significant more amount of these weird stuff going on because like everyone's going to have that ability. Well, I mean, most people have that availability anymore now, but like the younger generation who grew up on cameras, like the older folks, the baby boomers, if you will, right? They're Devers just hit another home run. They're 5-6 right now. Holy shit. Okay, cool.
Nice.
The baby boomers are gonna die, and their flip phones and one generation iPhones are gonna go on the hayway. But kids like my kids right now, who kind of grew up on a phone and will grow up on a phone, will probably have a phone when they're a lot younger than you and I had a phone, just because of necessity, and that's just the way things are. We'll be able to document and videotape and do all this stuff at a way better ability than you and I could, or even better than the baby boomers could that had these phones. So you're going to be able to see a lot of more stuff documented. The only thing that really, really would slow this thing down is if you have internet government, that people will start to be able to censor the internet. And that could be a real problem when it comes to sharing information of this nature. If they, you know what I mean? Like because I don't know if you're aware that so like obviously we have a freedom of speech, we have a First Amendment in the United States. Canada does not have this.
No, it doesn't. Yeah,
it right. Yeah. So there's a bill in the Parliament in Canada currently right now. I believe it's called the C10 bill, and this bill will basically have to involve social media, including YouTube. So if you're a Canadian YouTuber or a TikTok star or whatever like that, the Canadian government will be able to alter the algorithm of these devices based on how Canadian your material is. So if you do, say, for example, I watch a guy who's a Lego guy, right? He's a Canadian Lego guy. Nothing's Canadian about his Lego show in YouTube, right? The Canadian government will push that all the way down to the bottom of the algorithm because it has nothing to do with Canada. And basically the reason they're doing this because there's like 3 major companies in Canada. It's their media company, kind of like NBC, ABC, CBS in the United States. But Canada has their own. Rogers, Canadian, whatever that, CBC, whatever that. So basically it's given them the ability to pick and choose the material that gets put on a higher algorithm. So if you're Googling stuff on YouTube and stuff like this, you will get their material before you get Bob, the guy who camps in the woods, right?
Yeah.
But it's basically just for Canada. So other Canadians will be affected by this. YouTube is actually fighting against this. YouTube actually put out a disclaimer or a petition to be signed to send to the Parliament again. But every country is doing this. If you ever post something on YouTube, you see you may be restricted in these countries, right? Now that's just the start of it with this internet kind of government system, because the internet was made to be a free kind of do what the fuck you want, right? It's the last unknown place, and obviously
you're starting to tread on crypto and Web3, but we'll save that for another time as we get to football.
Right. So just with that in mind, if you're in Canada right now, there's a petition going around to sign that to stop the Canadian government from interacting with the algorithms of social media, which I can't say much. I love Canadians, but I can't say much for the Canadian government, who still worships the Queen, in which they broke themselves away from 200 years ago, and they still have her on your money. Bro, cut ties. I can't stand for a country that with a prime minister wins less than 30% of the election and he becomes your president. Right? Makes no sense. So, all right. With that said, we run a fantasy football league here called the Packy League. That's what we've been doing since 2015. I'm looking at the trophy right now. We've had 7 championships. We had multiple winners.
We do.
My wife has won twice. We've got Joey P's won twice. His wife has won. Adam, of course, won. And our friend Joey Doubleback Monaco has also won. So we have half the winners are on the trophy, and we've had 7 championships. So we will do the draft this year. We changed the rules a little bit this year. We've enabled a keeper. So one of your players from last year's team you can keep and bring on to this year. You can bring any player if you want. If you choose not to, that's fine. You just get an extra draft pick. That's basically how it works. So basically, we assume everyone's going to be keeping a player. So the first round kind of goes away, and then you start in the second round. Now, if you choose not to keep a player, you have a first round pick, and everyone else doesn't. So that's basically the choice you want to make. And do you have any players that are that valuable enough you want to keep? And if you don't want to keep them, then you get an extra pick before everyone else gets a pick. Plain and simple, easy as that. If you have a really good player, you keep them. All right. So we changed the rules a couple of years ago, the way we do the basically the draft. Like we'll make it so most leagues will just do a random draft every year, but we want to make it a little more intimate. So if you'd won the championship last year, you have less balls. If you've lost, you have the most balls. It's kind of like the NBA draft goes. And this makes it fair because that makes people not want to basically just, shit their season because it doesn't guarantee you the first pick next year. And I think that's a fair way of doing it, right? We voted on it, so I mean,
it's funny because it really doesn't matter where I fall because I had Jonathan Taylor
right
last year, and I'm probably going to keep him, and he's probably going to be the number one pick this year. So I'm just going to keep him. So
yeah, which is a smart move to make if you have a good player that you drafted, and like for example, like for the years that Adrian Peterson was quite the stud. A lot of people kept him, like if in a league of this nature, because he's going to be a guy that's going to be successful. Can you see any of the drafts right now?
Oh yeah, I see it perfectly. I was wondering what was going on, and I thought it was a connection issue. Yep. I see
All right. So we got Adam on the top, me on the bottom right here. I've already entered the balls into the lottery here, and I'm not sure. We're gonna start. What time is it? 9 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock already. All right.
Okay. So hold on. Let me find the draft music.
Let's see. 36 minutes of it. I don't know if I have it on mine. I guess I don't know if I could share the audio.
I'm looking for the draft.
So, and just so we know for wrestling, I'll give you guys the standards right now. This is how everyone finished last year. Of course, my wife Susie J finished first place. Polk High, which is Crazy J, finishing second. Bobby Basswood, Joey M finished third. Adam, of course, finished fourth. Joey P finished fifth. Maddie M finished sixth. I finished right in the middle in 7. Let's see. Matt R finished 8th. Joe C finished 9th. My cousin Richie and his buddy Evan finished 10th. Erica P finished 11th. And Eric Danger Powers finished 12th. And to give you some kind of perspective, my wife's record during the regular season was 8-6, but she did not have the best overall. There was 1, 2, 3 teams that had 9-5, and that typically to me is I'm looking at the trophy will have your final your final wins, and 10 wins seems to be the magic number. But if you can get, but it doesn't matter, just get in the playoffs, right? It's all that matters at the end of the day. So
all right,
ready?
Ready, sir. All right, and with the first pick.
No, we're gonna do no, not the first pick. We'll go a bit.
The 12th pick
of
the 2022 NFL season.
Yep.
Can you hear that? Okay.
All right. Can you see it? Susie will get who won last year. So yep, that makes sense. She has less balls on it. So did it play?
Did you hear it or not?
No, I didn't hear it.
Yeah. Maybe it's...
Download the Domino's app today.
I could download the Domino's app.
An advertisement. Oh, you heard the advertisement.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is it's so short.
And give you guys, it is a snake draft. So obviously the first pick gets the first and
just let it roll.
24th pick. So all right. So the 11th pick is all right. Second place team, Crazy J. All right. So far the lottery numbers are working correctly.
Mm-hmm.
The 10th pick, I'm going to say it's going to be Joey M if I'm going by the balls, but who knows? Let's see.
Who knows?
No, it's Adam.
Wow. I lucked out then because my pick is the one I'm going to keep is so that's that works out. So what happens in the second round? So does that mean I get to pick third?
So I think what happens is it goes through the first round. So basically, boom, boom, boom. Say 4 of us decide not to keep our picks. We'll get a pick. Boom, boom, boom. And that's it. And then we'll start the draft, essentially.
Gotcha.
So,
all right.
It's kind of like, we're giving it's giving the advantage to the team that doesn't want to keep any players and wants to start fresh. You get advantage to pick, and then you kind of then the cycle continues.
This could be interesting. All right.
ESPN does it automatically for you when you draft. So let's see.
Realistically, I could fall anywhere 10th on 10th, but like if I'm picking the second round, who knows? That might be the third pick or the sixth pick or we never know. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Anything is possible. All right. So with the 9th pick will be Joey P. This is interesting for Joey M because Joey M finished in 3rd place and he still hasn't got picked yet. So, all right, there we go. All right.
He's getting lucky.
The pick is Joey M. There we go. We spoke too soon. So he took an advantage of that. He really should have been down in 10th. He got a few. So everyone who's kind of like in the mix who finished in the top has basically got there. So
in the ballpark.
In the ballpark, right? So it's pretty fair at this point. Maddie, 7th pick. Oh, did we skip? No, we did 8th, right? 8th was Joey. Yeah, okay. All right, so 6th, if you're going by, it should be me, but we'll see how it goes. All right, no, it's Ricky and Evan, which kind of got screwed because they finished 3rd to last, and they're only getting the 6th pick, but
oof.
We'll see what happens with the 5th pick. Ooh, Joey C., who Joey C. finished in 9th place this year, so he's kind of where he should be. Me. All right, 4th pick. All right, so I made it out a little bit on this. So the 3 teams that are left right now are Erica, who finished
Powers.
11th, Powers, who finished in 12th, and Matt R., who finished in 8th. So I would say Matt.
It should be Rudolph. It should be.
Should be Rudolph by the way it goes. Let's see who it is. Matt Rudolph. Okay.
Yep.
So Erica and Eric.
So this should be Powers, but who knows? We don't know.
Should be Erica and then Powers, but let's see how the lottery balls did it this time. It's Erica.
Yep,
okay.
Erica.
So there you go. So that means the number 1 pick of the draft this year is Eric Danger Powers. Right there. Eric Danger Powers.
That's funny too, because he's not going to get the number 1 pick, because most likely whoever the number 1 pick is, whether it's me with Jonathan Taylor, already has that pick and is just
right. So assuming he has a good player that he kept from last year, that's going to do him well. It's basically like getting a number 2 pick. So you could take the top 12 players that are in the league right now, and as long as they're not rookies, eliminate them from the draft this next year. So it makes things a little more interesting right there. So there's the picks for the snake draft. It goes Eric, Erica, Matt, me, Joey C, Richie and Evan, Matt M, Joey M, Joey P, of course, Adam, Jay, and Susie. Then we'll go back up to the rest of it for the rest of it. So
that's pretty much what I thought it would be.
We're going to figure out the date on the draft, which will be probably the week before the season starts. So we have a good evaluation of the players and preseason and stuff like that. We're not drafting too early. And if there's any injuries that happen during preseason, we get that taken care of, and we don't have to worry about drafting the guy that's injured. So we will do that. Maybe we'll do it live. Maybe we'll do it like on the setup we're here. I like this little setup of the screen on the side. Does yours looking like that? Is it me and you, and then the screen on the side?
Yeah, you and me are on the right, and all the picks are on the left. So I can text you a picture if you want.
Yeah. So there's the 2022 Packy League draft pick order, which we do every year on the show around this time of year. So with that said, that concludes our show here at 9, a little past 9. Anything you want to promote or what you
No, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm excited. Tomorrow's Friday. Yeah.
For a short week, it seemed like a very long week.
It always does. The universe course corrects.
Right. It should have felt like a quick week, but it actually felt like fucking dreadful at some points. But we've got through it. Of course, you get Adam on the Whirlwind on YouTube. And you get me on the Wicked Explorers. So you get this fine program on the Wicked Explorers YouTube page as well. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. So toodles. Do. No, how I guess stop. There we go. And end the program.